One day I was doing something, very productive and scrolling on Facebook on the news feed. And I saw an ad from Jason Hornung. I think his hook at the time was how to start a $100,000 a month marketing agency with Facebook ads. And I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. Let me check this out. I would always joke because I was homeschooled. I don't really love math. I don't like school. I don't like numbers. I don't want to do anything related to that. He was talking about your average order value, your lifetime customer value, your opt-in conversion rate percentages. And it was like lighting up to me on the screen. It was like coming alive. Wow. And I'm like, I think I actually understand this. My parents are not going to believe me, but I actually like this type of math. If you are talking to a audience that's a great audience and you have a really hot offer for them, they are not going to care about your social media following. They're going to want what it is that you have. But when it comes to testing your elevator pitch, you really are just one pitch away from perfecting it.
Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Glad to have you. As we were just chatting before we hit record, your entrance into the world of marketing is insane. When I found it, I couldn't believe it. I found a video from a long time ago of you purchasing a course from Jason Hornung, and then you binged it in 6 hours, and you got your first client within 24 hours, replaced your salary a couple weeks later. This is like an uncanny, version of events or that line up. How does that come to be?
Yeah.
Did you think this would unfold that way?
So I think that's why Jason liked to use my testimonial story for his course there.
That's fair.
So yeah, just to give a little bit of background, I've always been interested in marketing. I was homeschooled most of my life, so I had a lot of extra free time, which I appreciated. And even at a young age, taught myself how to use Dreamweaver and Photoshop. And I remember my parents looking at me crazy when I told them I found a client on Upwork to pay me $500 to rebuild their website in German.
Whoa.
And I'm just kind of playing online. They're probably wondering what I'm doing. And I'm like trying to find ways to make money. And that's just something that I think I was born with. That's just inside of me from an early age. And my dad is also an entrepreneur. So he started a business right after the crash of 2008, the perfect time to start a business. Mm-hmm. And I got to see firsthand from being a janitor in the office to working in the mailroom and other roles there, just the behind the scenes of his entrepreneurship journey. So there was a lot leading up to buying that course. I think it was certainly something that was brewing for a while. But then ultimately, I found myself in a place where I knew I wanted to leave my full-time job where I was in marketing at my dad's company, and I was a manager there over a small team. But I just kind of felt that stirring. It's time to go do my own thing. I've been feeling like it was time to do my own thing for a while, but just didn't know how to do it. And ultimately started this journey of talking to different people and business owners and friends of mine and asking them, hey, you are an SEO. Let's go meet for coffee. Let me pick your brain. You do websites. Let me pick your brain on this. And I met with these different people, and all these different fields related to marketing just they weren't really resonating with me. And then one day I was doing something, very productive and scrolling on Facebook on the news feed.
As we do.
And I saw an ad from Jason Hornung, and it was how to start I think his hook at the time was how to start a $100,000 a month marketing agency with Facebook ads. And I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. Let me check this out. And it took you straight, which is crazy to think of as funnel. It took you straight to a 55-minute video with no opt-in or anything.
That's brutal.
He was just writing on a whiteboard about math. And I'm like, this sounds strange. But I started listening to it. And honestly, that video, his 55-minute masterclass video, when I was watching it, I would always joke because I was homeschooled. I don't really love math. I don't like school. I don't like numbers. I don't want to do anything related to that. He was talking about your average order value, your lifetime customer value, your opt-in conversion rate percentages. And it was like lighting up to me on the screen. It was like coming alive. And
Wow.
I'm like, I think I actually understand this. My parents are not going to believe me, but I actually like this type of math. And when I was listening to it, what he was talking about, he was basically sharing, like, if you can understand the metrics behind campaigns and how to write ad copy and all this, like, you can have your own agency and you could replace your income. Now, at the time, I didn't really have extra income. So I did another really smart thing and I put it on a credit card.
Let's go.
And I said,
invest
you
in
know what?
yourself, baby.
Yeah, I said, I'm just going to try this out. He had a 30-day money back guarantee. Maybe he means it. Maybe he doesn't. Let me just try this for 30 days and see how it goes. So like you mentioned earlier, what I did was I bought the course, binged it for about 6 hours. He was talking about ideal client avatars. He was talking about writing headlines, writing effective ad copy, different frameworks. I knew literally nothing about any of this stuff. I was doing a little bit of marketing with like flyers for my band I was in and a website in German, you know.
Oh, here we go.
Didn't know anything about what he's talking about, but it just made so much sense to me in those first 6 hours where something came over me and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to see if I can go find a client because I know a lot from what I just read. And now I just need to go implement and try this out. So that led me to Upwork. If you're not familiar, Upwork is a job platform where you can go search different needs that you have. And I had this idea at the time, which was, why don't I just bid on jobs of people looking for help with marketing? And I'm going to send them Jason Hornung's course. And I'm going to let them know, I just bought this course and I just went through this content and I think I know how to do it. If you give me a chance, I'll charge you less than other people if you give me a great testimonial.
Sweet deal.
So I bid on like 3 jobs, and either that night or the next morning, it was like 8 or 9 years ago now, I don't really remember, but somebody responded to me and they hired me. And what they paid me covered my first payment that I made.
Whoa. Let's
so
go.
I'm like, I think that this could work. That was like a big aha moment for me, for sure.
Business, baby. Return on an investment. You invested in yourself and you got the return within 24. That's such a good pitch, though. Hey, I just finished this course and I think I got this on lock. But it's also cool to hear that it just seems like it clicked. And I do think there's some things in our lives where we're like, this is meant for me. Like, this is like right up my alley. It's like meeting that point of interest and also skill or how your brain works to where it just made sense. So when did you quit your job? When did you make that leap? And it sounds like there might have been a discussion there with your pops where you're like, hey, I'm going to leave. So there might be something there.
My dad loves telling this side of the story, right? Because my boss was someone different. The company maybe had 100 employees at the time. So I'm working for someone else, but obviously it's still my dad. So the way that he tells the story is different than how I remember it. What he says, though, is that I walked into his office and said, hey, Dad, I got to talk to you about something. He said, sure. We sat down. He said, what I said was, I'm making too much money to keep working for you, so I'm going to go quit. That's at least how he perceived it. But yeah, so after I got that first client, one of the things that I did was actually implement for them, right? So I needed to build their assets. And so she was asking me, okay, so who's my ideal avatar? And then what should my ad look like? And so I'm like, give me 24 hours. And so I go into the course module, how to find your ideal avatar. I just take some notes, refit it to her individual business, and then I deliver it to her and say, how about this? And she's like, yeah, that's great. So within like a week, we ran our campaign and she actually got leads.
Wow.
She actually got leads. And that's when it was probably within a week of buying the course, finding the client, delivering, where she was getting success, that I realized, okay, this is going to work. I just need more time to go find more clients and refine it. And that's at the time where I felt comfortable saying, all right, I'm going to go quit my job and at least give my dad's company more than a month notice. So I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, it was probably within a month or 2 of buying the course that I completely quit my job and then was just doing Facebook ads full time. And that was about 9 years ago now.
Wow. That's so cool. I feel like there is something to, maybe you can tell me if you felt this way, knowing that you have the ability to drive leads at any time gives some sense of safety and security for your own business too. Because it's like, well, I know I can just generate leads. Like if I find myself in this situation. So that must have been reassuring to see you could get leads for other people, which hopefully means you can get leads for yourself too in your business.
Absolutely. And what actually gave me the most comfort was the numbers behind the scenes, just realizing people don't know their cost per sale, their average order value, what it means to know your lifetime customer value. And if you have a service-based product, how you're factoring in all the areas of your marketing. What gave me confidence was knowing that business owners are trying to run their business and they don't want to worry about any of that stuff. And I can come in and help them with that stuff. And you basically just need anybody who wants to sell anything online, which is a pretty big audience.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was good.
Love it. Let's get into some tangible stuff here. Let's fast forward 8 or 9 years. Now we got some backlog of experience to pull from. You help folks launch offers in 24 to 48 hours. Break down that process of going from MVP or idea to getting some data and actually scaling an offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with a lot of different clients over the years. We've stopped counting after 300. So we've worked with over 300 clients. We've generated tens of millions of dollars in revenue for those clients and dozens of different verticals. So everything from Medicare insurance to e-com to lead generation to home service-based businesses, high-ticket coaching programs. So we've seen a lot of different types of programs. One of the things that we found ourselves really specializing in over the last couple of years, and one of our favorite things to do, is help people launch offers from scratch very, very quickly. So, what our process really looks like, if we kind of boil it down, is the first step, what we recommend is that you come up with your elevator pitch. It's oftentimes referred to as your core offer, but everything really hinges on your elevator pitch. So what is it that you can do for somebody that you can explain to them in 20 to 45 seconds and how you can make their life better? That's where a lot of people fail. Or they're like, well, I give people new gutters or I help people get leads. Like, okay, sure. But everyone does that, especially these days with social media. You have to find something really unique to you. So what we recommend is you battle test this elevator pitch. You do a lot of brainstorming. We typically recommend going over 3 avatars that you might have, and then 3 pitches for each of those avatars. That's like the first phase. So if someone was going to hire us and say, Matt, I want you to help me, that's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with 3 avatars interested in your offer, and then we're going to write 3 elevator pitches for each of them. And then usually 1 or 2 of those stand out more than anything else. Then once you got that core message, we recommend running what we call a DTA funnel. And DTA stands for direct to application. So this is where it's a little counterintuitive, because you would think, well, don't I need to nurture people and get leads and build trust and authority with them? And that all sounds nice, and it's something you can do over time, but there's no point of doing that if you have no proof that people actually want what it is that you're offering them. So we recommend that you come up with the elevator pitch, and then you create that DTA funnel, which is literally a headline, a sub headline, maybe a picture of yourself on there, and then a form. And on that form, you're asking 4 to 8 questions to try to gauge the people that are interested in working with you and why they're interested. And then at that point, you can have them schedule a call with you, or you can just say, thank you so much for your form. We'll get back to you in 24 hours. Now, the beauty of this process is what you're really doing is buying data. So you're getting those form fills, because if you spend a couple $100s in ads, or if you send it out to some friends of yours, or you post it on LinkedIn or whatever it is, and you get eyeballs on it and nobody fills out that form, well, there you go. People just told you they don't want what it is that you're offering. And then let's say this is another common scenario, and we did this even for our own, when it was time for us to start running ads, we went through this exact same process. And our first attempt totally bombed, which is ironic, right? Because we're the ad agency. But we did the whole research. We did the avatar. We put together this whole thing. It was the Scale 21 inspection, and we look at 21 different areas of your marketing. I still remember it because I thought it was brilliant, but I was the only one. Nobody else did. We ran ads to it. We spent maybe $800-900, and we did not get a single application.
Wow.
Not one. So
that's tough.
Then we move on to attempt number 2. And our attempt number 2, I still remember, was give me 30 minutes and I'll fix your ads. It was more of like let me just get on the phone with people. Let me see this. So that one, we spent about the same amount of money. We got maybe 8 to 10 applications. And then I talked to 4 or 5 people. But that's why this process is so important, because the 4 to 5 people I talked to were the complete wrong fit prospects. I talked to a lady who sold bedazzled shoes. She wanted to sell like 5 a month. I talked to a guy who did carpet cleaning and his budget was $300 a month. Like, it was just not the right fit. Yeah. So then we pivoted to our offer number 3, which was, if you sell a digital product online, we need you. And it was about one of our profit sharing models that we have. And that we've used for about 4 years.
Oh, a winner.
Just totally worked. Yeah, exactly. But we found it on our attempt number 3. Some people find it on attempt number 1. Some people find it on attempt number 18. But that's the beauty of this process, is you want to isolate. There's no fancy webinars. There's no fancy automations. There's no bells and whistles. It's pretty much an ugly funnel, because you want your offer itself, your elevator pitch, to be so strong that even without all of that fancy stuff, people are still responding to it. And if they're responding to it in its ugly, simple format, then they will certainly respond to it once you add all those other fancy bells and whistles. But now you just maximize your time. That's really the whole idea behind it.
That's lovely. Yeah. If I want the bare bones, it's almost like I know there's some story out there where somebody created an offer and they didn't even know how to like charge people money for it. Like, they didn't know how to like swipe to get their credit card, and they had people like knocking down their door like, I want to buy this from you. He's like, yeah, it's good to know my offer is good, but I don't know how to take your money. That sounds like that. Was there any discouragement coming to mind? Because when you said the first one failed and the second one failed, I'm thinking of all the entrepreneurs, or even people in my circle who have like ran ads once or twice, and they're like, ads don't work. This is terrible. Nobody's applying to my form. What do you do with any of that when it's like, I'm not getting applicants, I'm discouraged? Or do you just purely see it as data now?
Yeah, I might be a little bit jaded because I see it purely as data now. But no, certainly, especially when it's our own business and it's our own offers, and I have these ideas, like I have an idea in the shower, and then the next day I want to run a DTA funnel to it and see how it goes. It certainly hurts a little bit when it just doesn't work the way that you want to, right? Because we're our own biggest fans and we think it's so brilliant. Like, even the Scale 21 inspection, I still think is a good idea, but nobody else does, and it's too complicated. So that can certainly hurt a little bit, but it all depends on, what your main goal is that you have. And ultimately, to your point, if you really want this offer to work, it's just a matter of dialing it in. Because I know it's cliche and people don't really love it. And it's the whole Russell Brunson, you're one funnel away from making a lot of money. And that mindset can certainly be dangerous. But when it comes to testing your elevator pitch, you really are just one pitch away from perfecting it. Those 3 examples I just gave you, what we were doing is exactly the same. It was just the way that we framed it to our customer. So even if the first approach or the second approach doesn't work, like, you got to keep trying. That's part of entrepreneurship. That's kind of part of the process, because even if it didn't work, you're learning things that are getting you closer to your ultimate goal. Yeah,
definitely. Do entrepreneurs come to you and they want to perfect their program and the product and all of that stuff before having the offer go live? And would you say to avoid something like that and test the market first? Like, where does fulfillment and offer, where do those guys meet?
Yeah, you must be sitting in on my sales call. This is a very common occurrence. And yes, I would say most of the time people are coming to us with something that's fully built. And I could tell you these crazy stories. One of them was, we had somebody come to us and they spent 1.5 years and over $40,000 on video courses, like full production, everything, lighting, scripting on this course. And they then said, hey, can you help me sell this course? And I was looking at it and just instinctively I knew this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a good idea for the avatar you're going after is kind of a hard one. Your pitch to them doesn't really make much sense. And I was upfront with them, but told them like, hey, we can test a lot of different things. And so we tested for maybe 3 months and we got nowhere. And I eventually, I told them that at the beginning, but they still wanted to test it. They'd invested all this money. They refused to believe it. And I eventually found myself very cautiously saying, like, I think we need to pivot your avatar and your offer, which means that entire course doesn't apply anymore. And, they were not willing to do it, which I get it. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of the worst scenarios, right? Like, and I get why it happens, because as entrepreneurs or as people who are passionate about something, we just want to build it and we want to help people and we want it to be perfect. We want it to be great. We want people to go through it and be really impressed. But the problem is that it needs to be balanced with, you owe it to yourself to make sure that this is something that people actually want so that they can enjoy that experience you're creating for them. So most of the time people come to us with something that's already built and ask us to market it, where what we try to do and what we try to encourage is sell it even before it's ready.
Mm.
And that can feel very uncomfortable, especially there's different types of personalities out there. But a really easy way to do that is sell it as a coming soon or a cohort. That's like a really great compromise we found with people. So if you have this great idea, I was actually just talking to somebody a little bit earlier today. Him and his wife want to start a relationship coaching business. And he was telling me they're building the modules and everything. Right away, I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Before you keep doing that, let's see if we can actually sell it and get you some traction, but they want to make sure people have good experience. So my recommendation to them was, well, what if you run ads or you float it out to your network or LinkedIn, whatever it is, and then you just say that this program is starting in a month? And just see, do you have people filling out that application? Do you have people reaching out to you? Because if you do, then you can at least give yourself a couple of weeks to go finish everything. But if nobody wants it, then you don't have to go build it.
Yeah. And I'm just like, now I'm like in the seat thinking of all the time and them just putting the hours into building this thing and then crickets. That's the worst feeling. To have no traction on something you just spent so much time on. When you have a campaign going, when do you call it? Because I feel like there's what you said earlier where it's like, I know this isn't going to work. We need to kill this idea as soon as we can. But I feel like there's probably some edge cases where you're like, do we keep this one alive or should we call it or just pivot,
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's a little bit nuanced to decide that. It depends on the person, what it is you're exploring, how passionate you are about it. I'll give you an example. I've been trying to run an offer that's about building your cold acquisition system for you. And in my head, I think this is a great offer. And it's like, if you're already selling your high ticket offer organically or through LinkedIn, and you're selling it through referrals, but yet you don't have a way to do it through cold traffic, we'll come in and give us, 7 days, 14 days, and we'll build your entire cold marketing system for you. I've tried for 3 years on and off to get that message to work. And when we test it, it's basically crickets. We don't have people responding to it. But in my head, I'm like, but these would be perfect. Should appeal to them. And so I'll stop it for 3 months. And then I'm like, let me try this again with a different angle. And I keep going at it. And we've not really been able to crack the code with that particular offer to launch it the way we need to. And I'm about ready to put that to bed, But because I like the idea so much and I'm personally connected to it and I know it draws out our ideal prospect, I spent probably more time than I needed to with it. So ultimately, though, if you have an idea for something and you're testing it out, like we have an entire course that's all about how, if you're using Facebook ads, how do you launch it? And then what are the indicators you look for? Because you can look at the data side of it, your cost per click, your CTR, your cost per lead, what percentage of those leads are qualified. There's like a data way to look at it. But ultimately, it comes down to how passionate are you about this idea? How much money do you have to invest in this idea? We just worked with a client actually who they're getting traction on Google and they wanted to see if they could get similar traction on Meta. And they said that they have about $10,000 to invest in test. And if it doesn't work, that's the most they can spend. So we're going to take that into consideration, which is very different than if there's a client that says, I've got $1,000 to see if this is going to work. So it kind of comes down to how passionate are you about it? How much budget do you have to spend on it? And are you willing to pivot if things are not looking good?
Have you found that there is a minimum in terms of ad spend to get the information that you need on average? Like a typical, in order for me to know this has some legs, I need to spend X amount. Yeah.
In general, if you're using ads, we typically recommend spending between $50 to $100 a day in ad spend to run that DTA funnel and then run in 2 to 4 day sprints. So you come up with your idea. Let's use that marriage course as an example, the marriage counseling. We come up with our ideal target avatar. We come up with our elevator pitch to them. We write these ads. We run these ads for like 2 to 3 days. Maybe we spent $100 to $200. If you don't have a single application and your cost per click is $9, then you should probably pivot a completely different avatar, different angle. So that's the good news in all of this. Like, you don't need to go invest $5,000 and just cross your fingers and hope that it works. You can spend a couple $100 here or there to really see, what does your cost per click look like? Are you getting applications? Are they the right people? And you can test these things really, really quickly to get some data to know if this is something you should continue to pursue or not. We've worked with a client once that we tested things for 3 weeks and maybe tested 2 avatars and 6 different offers, and we never got a single application.
Oh my god.
And it's like, I think I told the client before the end of our agreement, I think you should just stop. Because if it's not working with everything we've tested, this is going to be a uphill battle that you might not want to do. And then, we have other clients that knock it out of the park on the very first try. So it really depends.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you get entrepreneurs who have maybe the skills, but they have concerns that they don't have an audience? I don't have a big audience to bring into this. And, do you, what advice or anything like that do you give them? Because I think they're completely different channels, really. But
100%. Now, when you're looking at selling something online, like, of course you want to have a big audience, but I would say most of those 300 plus clients we've worked with have 0 social media following. And we found, like, if you go ahead and Google search me, this is the first podcast that I've ever been on. And I
tried to find you on other podcasts and I couldn't. And I was like, this is great.
You won't really find me anywhere. You won't find any social media. And that's something I should probably pay more attention to after all these years doing it. But the point is, my agency, we don't have a social media following. And that has not stopped us from acquiring clients and building courses and selling courses to thousands of people at this point and coaching people. Most of the clients that come to us, we're creating their Facebook page for them with 0 followers. And then we're running ads from it. So it's definitely a limiting belief that you have to have a big audience in order to get traction. Can it help? Absolutely. Would we prefer it? Sure. But that's the whole point of the offer testing, the elevator pitch, the DTA funnel. If you are talking to a audience that's a great audience and you have a really hot offer for them, they are not going to care about your social media following. They're going to want what it is that you have.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is, if you're nervous about starting, you have no following whatsoever, come up with a very compelling elevator pitch and people will come to you and they'll want what you have and your following will just grow naturally.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, I'm going to knock on wood here. I break my ankle. I'm not going to the doctor and I'm like, pull up your Instagram. Before the surgery, I want to see all these photos of you to know that I can trust you. It's like, no, you can get me to the result that I want and you have the experience. Like, there's other ways to showcase authority than just the socials itself.
100%. So even going back to my Upwork story, I used Jason Hornung's credibility to help make up for the lack of authority that I had. Sometimes there's things that you can do, that you can reference a research paper. You can reference something that is from Forbes magazine and they'll associate Forbes, even though it's just a stat that you are referencing, right? And so there's some things that you can do where you don't necessarily have to say, I've worked with 300 clients. Like, yeah, we can say that now, but that's not the way it always was at the beginning. We didn't have a website until 2 years ago.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we did not have a website for you to find us anywhere. My dad would be like, hey, I have a connection for you. What's your website? I'm like, just send me an email. And it's my Gmail. Like,
yeah,
I just found, and maybe I'm on the other extreme, right, where I should pay a little bit more attention, which is why we have a website now. But if you have something people want, none of that stuff really matters, especially at the early stages of building something out.
Yeah, you're crushing limited beliefs right now, left and right. People are listening to this and like, oh, I guess I don't have to make a website. This is great. I don't have to make my Instagram popping, that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to run ads, you're running ads. You're not building a website. It's lovely.
Yeah, there was a friend of mine I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and they had this business idea, and they said, "I just got to get my business cards printed." And I
Wow.
wish I was on camera because my face, I just couldn't even hide it. And I was like, "You do not need a business card. Just go talk to people who want what it is that you have, and tell them how you can help them, and then just go find a way to accept a payment from them using Venmo." Like
Yes.
that is fine. And a quick funny story on this too is we started selling a course last year, and the upsell for the course was an idea I had about this whole DTA process. So we sell this process in a course now, but at the time we were selling like a $17 course about reducing no shows and getting more quality people to your sales calls. And my upsell was, this was my upsell sales page. I have an idea to make a course about Facebook ads, but I don't want to make it unless you actually want it. If you want
Great.
early access to it or early bird discount, I'll give it to you for whatever it is, $47 or $97. I'll charge more when it's ready, but just tell me if you want it. That was literally my upsell page. We ran that for, I don't know, a month and a half, and we had people buying it. And eventually we had 30, 40, 50 people who bought it. And Shannon on my team was like, "So are you going to go build this thing?" Right. But we had all these people who bought it who still never even got it after weeks or a month. And we didn't have anybody reach out to us until one person reached out and said like, "Hey, are you close to being done with this?" I'm like, "All right, I'll go finish the course." And so I took, I don't know, a couple hours, and I finished the course and then sent it out to everyone and said, "Here you go." But like, that's how I approach building products and services now, is I don't want to do any work on it until I know it's something that people will actually pay for.
That's incredible. It really brings things into perspective of it can be way simpler than we often make it. And maybe I actually think this is going to come up later for sure, but just people are overwhelmed with all of the things that they feel like they need to do, and like the tech stacks. Like, I need to have my automations, and I need to have these Zapier integrations, ensuring that these things and these leads are nurtured and all these things. And it's like, my goodness, just run them to an application and see if they want it. Which
100%.
I love.
Yeah, it's so easy to get lost in those details. And that's in so many areas of life. Like, think of nutrition right now. I feel like nutrition is a good comparison, where people are like, should I eat meat? Should I not eat meat? Is milk bad for me? Is milk good for me? Like, there's so many things where then you just don't end up doing anything because you're overwhelmed, right? So you just kind of need one thing that you can follow and stick with, and that will get you a lot of the ways there for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about, ads have changed quite a bit over the years. We're in 2025. What's working on Meta right now that maybe most people aren't aware of?
Yeah, so a big change with Meta. I mean, Meta is always changing, always keeping us on our toes. I was just talking to a client about, like, we've had really consistent performance, and all of a sudden our performance tanked overnight. And then I told them, I'm like, "Hey, that's actually pretty normal. You guys have just been spoiled for the last couple months that hasn't happened." And they said, "Well, does Facebook tell you when they make changes?" I said, "No."
No shot. And
they just couldn't even believe that that's how they run their platform. But yeah, if there's some Facebook people out there listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Facebook consistently has been moving their platform into more leveraging AI, especially for targeting. So one of the things that's really interesting is we have a couple ad accounts right now where we have zero ability to do any targeting. And I think that's something that Facebook's testing. They might roll that out continually. But you used to be able to run what's called campaign budget optimization campaigns and ad set budget optimization campaigns. We have a couple of our clients and even our own client account where we can't run ad set budget campaigns anymore. They just removed the ability, which means we can do zero interest targeting. So Facebook, and they released an announcement in December of last year, their engineering team. Like, you can kind of keep up with some of this stuff and read between the lines. But what we do know is Facebook's moving more and more into, they want to control everything with the targeting and how to deliver your ads to people based off what they know about people. So they keep telling advertisers, "We know your audience better than you do. Let us do that heavy lifting." And so these days, 2025, running ads, it's much easier. It's much easier to just go into the platform. You don't have to be an expert in knowing what all these different buttons means and how to do interest targeting. Most of the campaigns we're running right now are just straight out of the box targeting settings. But what that does mean is your ad creative is more important now than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen a shift last couple of years to this year where there's less advanced things or tactical things you can do with the buttons that you're hitting in the targeting and your interest targeting. And should you do manual placements or auto placements? From what we're finding, it's Advantage Plus audiences. It's all default settings for targeting. But then your ad is very, very important, because what Facebook's doing is it's reading your headline, it's reading your image or the transcription of your video, it's reading your text, and it's scanning your landing page, and it's using all of that information to determine who to show your ad to. So you just want to make sure that when you're writing your ad, you're talking to your ideal target audience. You're telling them how you can help them, how their life will be better. You know, the basics of marketing, like that's always been around. None of that has changed. As long as you're following those basic best practices, Facebook, what it's telling us is that they will get better than we could at finding that ideal audience. And so we, last year, were avoiding all of those because we tried them and they really wouldn't work that well. We'd say, okay, yeah, Facebook, you know our audience better. And then it turns out that we got better results doing our own thing.
Right.
Now we're in May of 2025. Facebook is actually outperforming when, you know, we can do our own targeting. So my recommendation, if you're trying to do ads in 2025, use the default settings from Facebook. They're going to continue to get better and better and better. I mean, think of it from their perspective. Their business is ads. That's where they make their money. So they want it as easy as possible for anybody to go on their platform and just start spending money confidently. So they're going to continue to make that easier. They're going to continue to make their engine smarter, but make sure you're giving it a lot of assets on the ad side to take and run with.
Yeah, given that information. You touched on all the questions that I had while you were talking. You answered all of them. I was like, well, what's your confidence in Facebook being able to get to those people? And it's like, well, we didn't trust them, and now it seems like they're coming together. And then answering all those other questions of what to include. Something that does come up that's still in the AI realm that I feel like is becoming more popular is people are creating AI ad creative. Like that portion of the ads is now being taken into consideration with AI. What have you seen with that? And is there any part of this that agencies should be leaning into on that in the marketing world, or even just business owners, or stay away from? Any concerns? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it's interesting with AI, right? Because as business owners and as an agency owner, right, I always try to not get distracted by all the fancy bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But you also need to know what's going on. So like, you know, you can get away with not paying too much attention to Threads when Instagram announced it. And should I be on Threads? And should I do this? And what about TikTok ads? And you can, if you want to dive into it, great. If you don't want to, great. AI is something that I personally believe you don't have the option of ignoring it. AI is something that is going to continue to get embedded into everything in daily life. And this is, again, my personal belief that if you just kind of sit on the sidelines and just say, well, I don't like robots. I've seen the movies. This is not good. I'm not getting involved. I do think there is a danger in falling behind, especially if you're a business owner, you're an agency, you're working with clients. So do I have concerns about AI? 100%. But do I kind of see the writing on the wall and also the ways that AI is improving things right now? Also 100%. So Meta now embedded into their platform, when you tell them this is my headline, they'll automatically auto suggest 8 different variations based off of AI. Yeah. And say like, what about these variations? When you put in your text, it's going to auto suggest different variations of that text. Now with your images, you can upload an image and it will scan it and it will say, what about these variations? This is another example of last year. We weren't using any of those recommendations because the performance wasn't very good. This year, Meta is getting very good. We're selecting, use that one, this one, this one, this one. And Meta wants you to give it as many options as possible, because the way that they're updating their platform is they know, right? Like they know Matt's habits of what I click and engage with on Instagram and how they're different than anyone else's, right? So they know that I might be more likely to click a video ad, whereas, you know, Nicholas, you might be more likely to create a video or to click a static ad. Yeah, exactly. So they want the option to be able to take your photo and convert it into a 3-second video because they know that an individual user is more likely to click that, and they want to try to help you with that performance. So that's where we've seen the last couple of months, it's been more beneficial for us to enable all of those. But AI is certainly worth looking into. I also personally have been seeing lately, like, it's easy to use ChatGPT one time and say, yeah, I leverage AI. But AI these days is way more than just ChatGPT. And there's so many things with it. So I do recommend business owner, agency owner, invest the time to learn in it, go through a course, look at free content on YouTube. I know there's a lot out there, but I do think it's worth the time, because it's also helped improve our personal workflows too for our agency. We can get a lot done quicker now than we could before leveraging AI.
It's incredible. It really is. I saw that you have a course on AI agents too, and how that integrates into the whole shebang. I think it may have been a chatbot AI agent, but before I tee you up with that question, I have a friend who has basically taken all of the facets of his life and has an AI agent doing some sort of part of it. Like when he's speaking in meetings, the note taker's going on the side and like sending emails out to the people he's talking about in the meeting, and then also like reading between the lines in terms of like what people are saying inside the meetings, and also setting up like appointment setters that are voice-based AI agents. That I saw a video recently where someone trained an AI agent for an appointment setter and trained it to like talk people out of the fact that they were an AI agent. So it would be like, if someone says, you sound like a robot, like you sound like AI, why do you sound like that? It would be like, oh, I just haven't had my coffee today. And it would go right back into the pitch, and it's like, this is nuts, like we're putting so much into it. But tell me more about these AI agents and things that you're dealing with.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients who are requesting AI agents. A great example is like a personal injury firm, and they want an AI agent where if somebody's in a car accident and they see the billboard, they want to call that number, and they want an AI basically employee to be taking that phone call. And so that means we have to program that bot to have some empathy and not just be like, oh, you were in a car crash. Okay, let me ask you a bunch of questions. That bot should probably be like, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you okay? Did you go to the hospital? And ask some of these questions. And, for me right now, like, I do think it's still pretty obvious that it's a bot. And some like people are being more and more warmed up to the idea that that's okay. But in the near future, you're not going to know if it is a bot or not. And that, again, we're talking about, there's a lot of scary things about that for sure, but there's also a lot of good things that can come from that in streamlining workflows and just making sure you're, as a business owner and agency, like making follow-ups way more specific than they ever could be before. One of the things, we have a form that people fill out, and then I review their form and I send them an email. And one of the things I just told someone on my team was, can we just train an AI employee to do this? Because I'm doing the same thing every time, and they can look at the last 5 that I've done, and they should be able to handle it. And so that's one way we're going to be able to incorporate that workflow. But whether it's phone calls, whether it's tasks, I also believe that AI will be able to, already it's being embedded into your Gmail. You can ask it to summarize an email and auto draft a response for you just with a couple clicks of a button. So again, learning it, I think, is going to be beneficial. What really blew my mind, I was just talking with my wife about this yesterday when we were on a walk. We were talking about AI, and what I realized was I was asked to do a project for this, like evangelist pastor person that I followed, and I wanted to help their ministry maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was working on taking their testimony and putting it into a book for them, because I've seen a bunch of their podcasts. I've seen a bunch of their YouTube videos. I knew their story, and I was like, I want to help your ministry. I love what you're doing. I'll listen to all these YouTube videos. I'll transcribe them, and I will go through all these main points and organize it. And so at the time I did that, and I spent maybe like 3 or 4 months working on this project and putting together a draft. And I was laughing because yesterday I realized that AI could do that exact same thing in a couple hours. And I'm not like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's a good thing. Like that actually helps me leverage my time more. Other people who are working on simple tasks like that,
Mhm.
that are kind of mindless. I do think that's a good thing because people are still going to continue to invest in things that require more of a human touch for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any current tech stacks in the AI realm that you lean toward when it comes to creating some of these AI employees?
So most of what we're doing right now is we are all in as an agency on high level, whether it's you
Nice.
call it high level or go high level. We are doing a lot in our business to help companies with leveraging high level. And so most of the AI stuff we're doing is with native high level solutions or embedding with a third party and then connecting it to high level. So I think that tech stack will continue to grow, but that's been like our biggest use case is because all the clients we're serving are related to high level at the moment.
That's great. And speaking of how AI agents can save you time, let's talk about how you got two young kids in a virtual team. How do you structure your day and the team so you're not getting dragged into chaos left and right?
Yeah, so I've been really blessed with an amazing team. We've always worked virtually since day one. And I also have been somebody that would rather hire based off of the people rather
Hmm.
than, if they have the right experience or skill set, because that stuff can be taught. But you want to find people that you gel with that are good people that have integrity. And so I've really lucked out hiring that way. Um, and in terms of like day to day, yeah, I have two kids at home. My daughter just turned 2. My son is about to turn 1. And
Hmm.
because I work remotely, because I have a small team and all of our clients are all over the world as well. So we're not in an office, we're not driving and meeting with people. Everything's done through Zoom. We use Asana for project management. Typically, what my day looks like these days is I'm getting up with the kids in the morning. I'm hanging out with them, sometimes getting them breakfast or so on, and then jumping straight into work for a couple hours and then taking some time usually to go on the walk with the kids or go to the gym, whatever that might be in the afternoon. And then working from that 1 to 4 o'clock or 2 to 5 o'clock stretch, whatever that looks like there. And then for the most part, I'm pretty much done at that point. Now, if you were to ask
Love
me
it.
this question 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been very, very different, right? Because I'm staying up late, and after my wife goes to bed, I'm staying up for another 3 hours to catch up on projects. But um, really, one of the things I really value is I want myself and everyone on my team to be able to have a good work-life balance. I want them to be able to go to their kids' soccer games. I want them to go to the recitals. I want them to be able to, oh my gosh, we're based in Cleveland, Ohio. We never see the sun. It's a sunny day. Go to the beach for 2 hours and not
Yeah.
have to worry about it. So that's the culture that we've created. I want people to be able to work, get done what they need to in the hours that are flexible for them. And then if they're not able to do that consistently, then that tells me, all right, we got to go systematize or we got to hire another person. But I do want to make sure, like, part of why we've been successful, I think, is because we value that work-life balance. I don't want people to be a workaholic. And we're making sure that we have our systems as streamlined as possible.
Yeah. A people first approach.
100%. Like that's what it's all about, especially with AI, right? You need
Yeah.
people,
You
and you want
definitely
to
do.
leverage people, lean into their strengths that they have. And the only reason, I can have this routine, which I understand there's some people who may be listening to this that are like, you just described like a non-stressful day. And yeah, most of
Yeah.
my days are not
That
very
sounds great.
stressful. It's been great. It's because I have an amazing team that all are running in their specific areas of expertise, and we can all just kind of divide and conquer on the things that we need to. That didn't happen overnight, but if
Mm.
you are struggling in your business and you're having a hard time like coming up to breathe, my recommendation is to first find how you can use AI to systematize and save some
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
then hire really, really great people that you trust, that can learn the skills. Because that's really what I believe is people first. When I did my first round of hiring after I had a couple initial people on my team, my job description was something people still bring up to me because it was, if you are somebody that when it's snowing really hard, you're going to shovel your neighbor's driveway. And if you're somebody,
Mm.
like, it was more character based. If this is
Yeah.
your type of personality, then I want you to join our team. I did not care at all if they have experience with marketing. So it's a bit unconventional. You can't do that for
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
but it's worked out really well for me.
That's great. I love that approach. in another system and strategy that you have is the Loom Google P90X model that I am so curious to learn more about, simply because I have a great affinity for P90X. So I am hoping this is part of your routine somewhere.
So Todd Brown is somebody that really brought to life the idea of having a unique mechanism and like having a name for your system. And in the marketing world, it just kind of blew up to complete chaos, right? Where like everybody has this ridiculous name that actually means nothing. And
Yep.
their idea of, instead of I build websites, it's like I build micro 460 websites. It's like, okay, you're just slapping a fancy name on it and you're building a boring website for people. So I was feeling a little tongue in cheek maybe at the time with this new course I put together. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have fun with the name. And so it's about how I use Loom videos in a Google Doc to pre-qualify my leads before I talk to them. But I called it Loom Google P90X just to kind of be funny and make fun of the idea of unique mechanism. So that's where the name came from.
Okay.
Now, what it actually does, basically, I've never had a sales rep. I've never had a setter. All the years that I've been doing this, I do everything myself. And the way that I've been able to do that, especially with having kids at home and all these things and working out of a home office where my daughter can be knocking on the door, screaming or saying daddy. The way I've been able to do that is through this process. So basically what I do is we run a DTA funnel, much like what I just shared. We practice what we preach. People fill out an application and I say, you know, I'm going to review your application, get back to you in 24 to 48 hours. Then what I do is I look at the application and I bucket it into one of three categories: bad fit, okay fit, or great fit. So usually you want to design your application in a way where you can tell by looking at it if this is going to be a total time waster, or this is a really great person, or I'm not really sure, let me explore more. If you can't tell that based off how people fill out your form, then you should revise your form and ask some more open-ended questions so that you can get that feeling by looking at it. Then if somebody's a bad fit, I just have a copy and paste email and text. That's something along the lines of what's called the on the fence. It's like, hey, Matt here, I just reviewed your application. Honestly, I'm on the fence about whether this is going to be a good fit for you or not. You mentioned you don't have any financial resources to invest, or you've been burned a lot. Our program starts at X. If you're still interested, let me know. I'm basically not expecting to hear back from most of those people, but I'm at least responding to them and not totally ghosting them. And then if they do respond to me, they at least know our starting price point, and so they're a more qualified lead.
Yeah.
If they are an okay fit, what I'm doing there is dropping them a couple specific questions. So I said, hey, Matt here, I read your application. You mentioned that you are trying to sell relationship coaching. Do you already have an offer, or do you need to create one from scratch? Just that simple. I'm just trying to get them to respond to my question to know if they're a serious lead. Because if they respond, then 80% of the time, they're going to be a good, serious lead. But half the battle is just getting them to respond. So if they're an okay fit, I'm going to just text message or email qualifying them. And then for that last bucket, if they're a great fit where I read the application and I'm like, I need to work with this person, then what I'm doing is I'm creating a custom Loom video for them. So if you're not familiar, Loom is a very easy software that you can install. You can use Vimeo. You can just use your desktop even, but it just allows you to create customizable videos. So I pull up their application. I put on the video camera and I just say, hey, it's Matt. I just read through your application. I love what I'm hearing. I'm looking at your website right now. I think we'd be a great fit for you. Let me know when's a good time to jump on a call. And then I send them that custom Loom video. And that's my process. I don't know why I needed 60 minutes in a workshop to just tell you what I did in like 4 minutes, but there must be more helpful things in there than what I just shared. So that's the process. And the reason it works is because you're maximizing your time. All I'm doing is manual. I could get 20 applications a day. That process is not going to take me long at all. And then if I do get on the call with somebody, they already watched my Loom video or they answered my questions. So the reality of them showing up is drastically higher. And then sometimes I'll even, if I'm still unsure, I can pre-qualify them and share my pricing ahead of time, or I can wait and disclose it. So that's a process I've used in my business since, well, we weren't really running our own advertising campaigns until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. But when we did,
Wow.
that's the process I've been using. I've taught other people how to use it. I'm a huge fan of leveraging that process.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think a lot of business owners are running into, and I had a conversation recently where someone was just real frustrated with wasting their time on sales calls with unqualified folks.
Yeah.
And I mean that feels almost like a, what's it called? Passage to entry? Entry to pass? I don't know. You have to go through it like once or twice where you're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be on these calls anymore. And what I like about that, your system too, is how personal it is, because I feel like not only is it qualifying the lead, it's building a sense of trust that you are the person on the other side of the email. Like, hey, I'm sending you a personalized Loom here. Like, you're not even working with me yet, and I'm already creating this thing for you, walking through your offer and your application. I feel like there's like it's a strong touch point to be compelled to at least want to talk to you, you know?
Yeah. Even if people say, hey, your prices are too high for me right now, it's not what I'm looking, they're always amazed, that I took the time to send them a video, and that it's really me. Now, you can probably also use AI these days.
I was
to
about to say that. You got to get an avatar in there now.
Maybe I should be doing that. But let me throw one other thing out there. If someone's listening to this and they're struggling with, I don't want to get on calls, and even Loom sounds like a lot of work. Another thing that we've been doing lately that's working very well is transitioning to group calls. So instead of like, if you're getting, let's just say 20, 30 people a week reaching out to you from your ads or your LinkedIn campaign, whatever it is. And so that means you're doing 20 to 30 one-on-one calls. What we've been helping clients do is transition to a group call. So instead of all those one-on-one time slots, there's just one time slot a day. Every day at 12 o'clock, or Mondays at 12, Tuesdays at 3, whatever it is based off of your schedule that you like. It's an info session. And then whether you have 5 people there or you have 50 people there, it's like, hey, everyone, thanks for coming to this info session. You just run through your slides or run through your pitch like you would one-on-one. And then you take people's questions, you can enroll them. And then if somebody wants an additional follow-up with you, you can schedule a short 15, 20-minute follow-up call. But then even if you're doing that one-on-one call, that person already heard your pitch. Like, they're going to show up to that follow-up call, and it's usually a simple enrollment call. So we have clients that have been pivoting to this. We have a client that's been using this model for like 2 years, and she's been enrolling people into her core cohorts every couple months, and she just jumps on calls. It's great because, kind of like the Loom process, you're just doing one call a day, whether there's 5, and who cares about no shows at that point, because it doesn't waste your time at all. And of course, you can use automations where if somebody didn't show up, you can remind them to rebook. You can still leverage setters. So a lot of our clients do still use setters and closers, and setters and closers can also conduct their own group calls, or they can also use the Loom Google process. So yeah, those are 2 things that can really help you, because it is a pain to deal with no shows. You have 5 calls scheduled, 3 of them don't show up. It's demotivating. The 2 that do show up are completely broke, and they're asking you to take a chance on them. Like, nobody wants to be doing that. So I highly recommend transitioning maybe to that Loom Google process, or give group calls a shot.
Yeah. Wow. That just blew my mind. I feel like it makes so much sense, especially if you had 20 qualified leads on a single group call and you filled the same amount of slots you did with your one-on-one calls. That seems like you could go bonkers. You could go crazy with it.
100%. We have a client using this model right now, and they were asking, well, how many people can I have on this call? I'm like, well, why not 200? Like, why not?
Infinite.
You just keep pushing it. Who cares? And it kind of turns into a webinar. It kind of gets that type of vibe with it. And it does take some time, right, to like perfect your pitch and everything. But the other thing that's kind of cool about it is it creates a exciting environment when there's 20 people on this call, because then that person who booked that call is like, oh, I'm not the only one interested. Look at all these people who are interested. And then if somebody says, yeah, I'm going to buy, it actually like is contagious. So there's a lot of good things that can come from it. And shout out to Mike Mark. He was the one that we kind of heard about this from. And then we started doing it more and more and kind of refined our own process from there. But what's so funny too is like when I hear it, it's like, oh, duh, that seems so obvious.
Yeah, it does. It's like, I remember reading in one of Russell's books, like you do a workshop every week and you'll never have to worry about money. It's like that on steroids. It's like workshop a week. What if I did a workshop every hour? Like, I'm going to do 1,000,000 of them, which is crazy, man. Yeah, that was a great knowledge bomb. Shout out, Mike. Here's what I got for you, Matt. If you're ready to jump into the next one. You turned down a pretty lucrative retainer not too long ago, or actually I should say pretty long ago. I don't know. At some point in this journey. Tell me more about that. I'm keeping it real vague for you. Essentially, it seemed like there was wasn't a good fit, perhaps moral wise, belief wise.
Yeah. So, that's something that's been really important to me. And I think why we've been able to be successful as long as we have been, because I'm a Christian. I've grown up in a Christian family. Those are my values. And sometimes we get requests from people that don't really line up with those values, but they might be offering us a lot of money. That sounds nice, right? And so you kind of, you find yourself in this dilemma of, all right, well, do I compromise a little bit and make some excuses? And that's not that big deal. And sometimes it's not even what they're selling. It could even just be the person, or you just know, like that person's not going to be a natural cultural fit. But one of the things that happened early on is when I started my business, maybe within like 3 or 6 months, right? I'm doing this full time now. I went to a workshop and there was like 12 people there. And I sat next to this one guy at this workshop and we hit it off and we were there to learn. And I was asking questions at the last day of the workshop. He just told me, he's like, Matt, I came here to learn, but you're asking such good questions. And I can tell from like all these different things. I just want to hire you to do this for me. And I'm very early on into my journey. I still don't really know what my pricing is going to be yet. I think at the time I was maybe charging like $1,000 to run a campaign. And I'm trying to, fully replace my salary that I had from my previous job. And he said, I'll pay you $5,000 a month to manage this campaign for me. And I'm thinking, man, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
But his business, was this like, is this thing about finding your inner angel in the trees and like how these people can speak to you and talking to people from previous lives. And I'll show you how to do it. And it doesn't go at all with something that I believe in. And I actually personally believe it's harmful to people. And so of course, like I wish that I could say, of course I wasn't going to do it, but I spent a couple days just torn between, but should I do this? And should I be able to provide for my family by taking this? And I can justify it. And I really thought about it. And then ultimately landed on, no, I don't want to compromise my belief system, especially that early on in my journey. I think that was a very impactful moment for me, because then since then, all of the other opportunities that came through were very easy. Because I already went through that process and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I think we've also been really blessed to work with great like-minded clients where even if they don't have a program that's about faith or God, that's something that they share themselves. One of the clients that I actually really appreciate the most is we have a client we've been working with who is a missionary in Ukraine.
Oh,
and
wow.
She reached out to us a little bit before the war started. And she like started a online educational business to fund her orphanage that she was doing in Ukraine, which is incredible. And she's still there to this day and we still work with her. And so we're helping her make money in her business. She sends us pictures and says, we had a great month last month. Here's a new orphanage that I built. Like it's That's incredible amazing. To be able to work with clients that we can have that type of direct impact. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have you had any bad clients? Because what comes to mind when I think about, we don't have to categorize them as quote unquote bad, even difficult, because I think about this a lot. It's easy to love people who are easy to love. And we're still called to love people who are a little bit harder to love. Has that ever come into play? And I do think it's really apparent in how you talk and interact with clients that your faith is shown in that way. So I'm curious if you got strategies around that.
I'm going to do as much screening as I can. This is actually a fairly recent story, but there was a client that we were interested in working with. And then I had a little bit of an off feeling. So I did some Google searching And one of the
Hmm.
first things that came up was an interview because they were accused of a homicide.
Oh,
And then the video was them defending themselves that they didn't do it. And just the whole vibe was like,
off.
yeah, okay, I'm not going to work with this person. So there's some
Yeah.
screening that you could do.
Yeah.
I recommend Google searching people because you never know what you're going to find.
Really?
Um, but yeah, sometimes you work with people and they turn out to be really demanding or they turn out to be really rude. That was one thing that I've certainly experienced where it's like, okay, we sent you your ads and they gave us feedback, and most of our clients give us feedback, but their tone was like so mean.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, this was years ago, where a client just wrote feedback directly in the document, and it was extremely rude the way that they wrote it. And
Mm.
because our copywriter owned the document, they got all of those comments right straight to themselves. So I couldn't even
Mhm.
screen it or give them a heads up or anything. And so I just reached out to the client and said, like, look, we can continue working together, but I don't appreciate the way that you're giving us this feedback. Here's what I'd prefer, just so that we can respect one another. If you're okay with this, let's keep going. If not, then we're just going to refund and move on. And so I think setting those boundaries, being comfortable setting those boundaries is something that's important to do, because you want to make sure that you are also having as much integrity as possible. Clients will come and go, opportunities will come and go. It could look like this amazing opportunity, but if you feel like you're compromising your integrity at all by saying yes to it,
Mm.
it's not going to be worth it. And we even see that too on the ad side. Sometimes we make mistakes. Like sometimes we run a ad to the wrong landing page, and so it's all
Mhm.
basically wasted ad spend. And we know that that happened, but the client doesn't know. And then I have to decide: are we going to tell the client, or are we just going to pretend
Yeah.
it didn't happen? And
Yeah.
then when we do tell the client, are we just saying sorry, or are we offering to cover that ad spend? So there's a lot of little inner decisions that need to be made. And my recommendation is just, you're the person that has to live with yourself every day.
Yeah.
And again, those mistakes, they're forgivable. Things will come and go. People might get bad, but just make sure you're conducting yourself in a way where you can look yourself in the mirror. You can feel good about yourself. I was at a conference with Todd Brown last year, and something he said that I really, really appreciated was, he said, I never want to do business in a way where if my clients or if my team were all in a room talking, there's things I wouldn't want them to know or say.
Mm.
And I thought that was so interesting because he's basically saying, like, don't charge this one client 5,000 and then charge this client 15,000 and then hope that that other client doesn't know about it and
Yeah.
that you don't get busted that way. Like if you're having to do
Yeah.
stuff like that, you should probably not do that.
Yeah. Rethink your strategy there.
100%. But yeah, we've certainly had difficult clients, and my biggest recommendation is just have that hard conversation. There's even been times where I get an email from somebody and I just straight give them a call. And
Mm.
it's like, that's the most uncomfortable thing to do, right? Because you just want to
Yeah.
hide behind the email at least, or have a bunch of people approve it for you. But I found if you're dealing with a difficult client, sometimes one of the best things you can do is just call them and help diffuse the situation. Because the way that they are through text or through email is going to be different than if they're actually talking with you. And then if you find yourself in a situation where I've certainly had this happen. I was talking to my dad about it, which is great because I have a built-in business advisor in my dad.
Yeah.
Where there's a client where every email is pulling teeth, and sometimes it's just worth it to let that client go, because
Yeah.
the amount of energy it takes from you is not worth the amount of money that they're paying you.
Yeah.
That's certainly something I've had to learn over the years.
Yeah. 100%. This is all such good stuff in it. I think your approach to this is the correct one. It's not a, hey, you need it. Hey, you don't talk to me that way. It's like, hey, I just want to establish some boundaries here, and if they can't be met, that's all right. Like nobody's forcing us to work together right now, which I think is a better approach than I've seen tossed. I've seen some entrepreneurs take the position of like, you gotta dictate the scenario and be this kind of guy when you're talking to clients, and it's like, I don't think you do. I think you can be nice about it.
I completely agree. And you want to be true to yourself. Like, that's not me at all. And so I don't want to read something in a business book or see a clip on social media and then like, all right, well, let me try to do something that's not in line with who I am as a person and my values. It doesn't go well. Like same thing with sales calls. There's a lot of tactics out there for sales reps and things that I'm
Yeah.
tempted to try, but they're
Yeah.
not me. And I can still
Yeah.
implement some of those things in my personality so that I still feel authentic and come across, because clients will be able to sniff out if you're, following something from a workbook you paid $7 for. Like they know. And one of the best things you can do is just be yourself and come across as genuine. That's rare these days. I have people say that to me all the time. It's like, Matt, I really appreciate our conversation. I feel like I can just trust you and tell you my life story. And like all I'm doing is just talking to them. So if you just don't try to overpressure people, just genuinely want to help them, people first, like we said earlier, you're going to be very successful with that.
Yeah, that's been my approach too. And I feel like I always walk away from sales calls feeling like I'm shooting myself in the foot of like, should have hard closed them, And it's like, well, I've been on the receiving end of a hard close, like someone trying to really push, and I'm like, it's not fun. And I didn't like it, Like I eventually made the decision I felt like I needed to make, but it was like a guided and collaborative decision. Everybody that I've purchased from has been like great listeners. Exactly what you're saying, like trustworthy people that didn't seem like they wanted to sell you if it was a bad fit. And yep. I do think that makes a world of difference. And maybe, there's a world where you don't make as much revenue because you're not closing every sale, but you're also giving a way better experience for everyone. Like they're actually quality fits. You feel good about it. They feel good about it. Like there's a lot to be said for that.
Absolutely.
Matt, I want to ask you a question about your pricing model. Because I think it's great, and I've actually seen a lot of talk around marketing agencies and how, quote unquote, they go to die in the mid tier section, like the $1,000 to $2,000 range, because it's tailored to small business owners and they essentially want everything done from them. And you have a partnership model, and I know you said something the other day. Hopefully that's okay if I quote this right now. If I botch a quote from you, where it's like everybody wants like $100,000 business, but they want to pay $500 for it. And it's like, okay, well, how are we going to meet that expectation? So, can you talk to me a little bit more about your pricing model when it comes to your agency and how it all comes together?
Yeah, when we first started, our model was very much just retainer based. And so here's the flat retainer, here's the scope of work, what we're going to do for you. And that was fine, but there was two things I noticed that I wanted to find a way to change. One, and it sometimes doesn't feel good either to charge a $5,000 or $10,000 retainer to a prospect that you have no experience working with. They don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how we're going to like them. And then we don't have any guarantees. That's a hard thing to sell. So the higher we started to make our retainer, the harder it was to sell it. And then finding, people say, well, just go find prospects that will pay for it. Like, well, yes, that would be great, but they're harder to find, right? Mm-hmm. And there's also business owners that I know we could get traction with, and that their business and their life could be impacted, but our retainer is just too high. Mm-hmm. And if it was lower, they could have a really great experience from what we could do for them. So that's the first thing I wanted to try to find a way to change up. And then the second was, we had clients that were maybe paying us $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month, but they were making like $100K. And I knew that if our model was different, they would be happy to pay us $20,000 because they're making so much more. And that means we could work with less clients and just make more. So about 4 years ago, we adjusted our model to a hybrid fee plus profit share. Now, we learned a lot of things. At first, it was just a profit share model, and that totally blew up in our face. I have a lot to say about that. But where we landed is a hybrid where there is a base fee to work with us, but then we only make the type of money we want to make by making you actual money in your business. And that's my pitch to people. And that's what I found works well, to your point of like, if we just do a profit share and we're not going to charge you anything up front and we're going to just make money off a percentage of sales, what I found was those clients were not nearly as committed as the ones that are paying us at least a setup fee or a smaller monthly retainer fee. And there's a lot of truth to that. So yeah, our model is we have a base fee retainer, and then we have a profit share so that we can only make the type of money we want to if you're making that money. for the most part, profit is defined as your cash collected minus your ad spend and minus our retainer fee. So genuinely, we can only make more money when you are. And that's been really good to us, because we've had some clients that come in that are just starting out from scratch, and then they'll scale to over 6 figures. And we have a percentage of that now, we keep as an agency and trickles down to the team as well. So it's just been interesting, because we even went as far early last year. I was feeling crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, but we went the route of, we are going to make a percentage of profit and we're going to fund your ad spend.
Whoa. Wow.
And believe it or not, we got a lot of applications for that.
I wonder why.
I think like 175 in a very short amount of time. But my thought process was, people get so stuck on the ad spend and they're nervous to spend. If we just say like, yeah, we're going to cover the ad spend, because we know if we have someone that sells a $5,000, $10,000 program in a niche that we know is proven, we can crush it for them. It's a very interesting experience, because what I learned was that there were these opportunities that I knew we could do really well in, but because they did not up front and they didn't pay the ad spend, it was genuinely too good to be true. They just were not committed. They were not following up with people. And I can see all of this happening. I'm like, you can make, but because they didn't invest anything, they were just not committed to making it work while we're even funding the ad spend. So we stopped that model. And that's where we solidified, we basically said, okay, we're only going to do this setup retainer fee plus profit share. And that's been working really well for us. But that'd be my recommendation to people out there thinking of doing something similar. Have at the very least a setup fee, and then make sure you have a clear definition of what profit actually looks like that you're both agreeing to in writing.
And it's nice. I feel like the partnership model brings a more collaborative approach. And I think that might even show up in some of your communication with clients, because then it's not like, well, my marketing team isn't doing this. Well, it's like, hey, let's work together, because we're both going to really benefit from the output of what we're doing here.
Yeah, it really aligns everybody's incentives. We have a client is so funny to me, because she celebrates the larger the invoice, and so not everybody does that.
That's awesome.
Right. But she goes, here's the first of the month. She goes, send me my invoice from last month. I'm so excited to pay you this much money. And hopefully next month I can double it. And that's her mindset, because she knows we're all in this together.
Wow. That's so sweet. Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great client to have. Matt, we are approaching the final question of the podcast. I do feel like we're just scratching the surface here. Oh my gosh, the depth of this well, brother. We could go down it for a while, but I wanted to thank you for your approach to business, your approach to people, and how well you love people throughout the entire process, while also being extremely good and knowledgeable at what you do. It's a rare combo that I've had the luxury of interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs, and I can't say I see it often. So it's cool to see it live and in action with you. So appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Final question of the podcast is, what does it mean to live a fulfilling life?
For me, I really believe at the end of the day, the most fulfilling thing is that as soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to go into the next room, and my wife is there currently making dinner, and my 2 kids are probably running around playing with toys. And I give them a hug, and we're going to go and spend time together. That's really what all this is all about. The business and everything else is great, but having people that you love, and then I believe as a Christian too, ultimately the reason that we exist is to give God glory and to let him shine through us. And so the most fulfilled that I've ever been in my life is when I'm in small groups, I'm in church, I'm talking to people about their relationship with God, how things are going. That's what we are designed for. Even if you have the loving wife and the kids, but you're still missing that, why is it that I still feel empty inside? I really do believe it's not that inner angel that you'll find in that tree, but it really is. It's God. When you look into the Bible, when you look into the history of it, when you look into did Jesus really die, and you see the evidence, it's really amazing. But that is really what I believe is the purpose of life, where you find true fulfillment, is having a relationship with Jesus, having integrity in everything that you do, sharing Jesus with people, and then just having that close knit group of people, if it's family and friends, that you can enjoy life with. The business stuff is fun. The money stuff is cool. The talking about marketing funnels and automations, like, yes, it's a big part of life, but it really is all meaningless at the end of the day if you don't have those things.
I love it. Get me fired up, Matt. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so the best way, we do have a website now. It's goodtreeagency.com. That's goodtreeagency.com. That's the best way to go there. You'll see all the courses we have. You see some lead magnets, things that we have there, some forms if you're interested in working with us that you can fill out. And then I'll use my Loom Google process on you. So
nice.
Give me some details so I don't mark you as a bad fit and you get that on the fence email.
Nice. I love it. Well, that'll be in the show notes. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Bye.